Oh, turn your microphone on.
You know, only before I say, oh, I found where you said you sent the minutes, but there was nothing attached. Lovely. Evening.
Evening.
Green button. Debbie, green button on.
Green button.
I was reading to you.
I'm calling the meeting of March 9th, meeting of the Wiscasset Ordinance Review Committee to order. We have a quorum, Christian Montoro and John being absent at the moment. Next order of business, approval of minutes of February 10th. I didn't get it. There was an email that they were not attached.
Oh.
I went back and looked. I said, why don't I have them? And now there's no. There's a big white car, so I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I would have sent them out this week.
I don't know. I went back as far as my email goes.
Yeah, there was a blank email in there.
Oh,
It said-
Yeah,
it said minutes
I
of the
think
building
you thought you
attached.
did.
it was, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll table those until next time. I'm moving, changing the agenda and adding, what we discussed, the final approval of the changes for Carpenter Hudson. We didn't vote that, remember, because we didn't have a quorum. So,
To the building laws.
yeah, changes to the building law and the glossary. It was the way it was written and handed out, and I have copies if you don't remember. So, I am looking for a motion.
Motion to accept the changes to the building.
And forward to this one.
I make the motion that we accept those changes and forward it to the select.
I'll second.
The motion is to accept the changes to the building laws, which is the congregate housing section, and the glossary according, yeah,
Which is what I was
what you
saying.
were just reading.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Hearing it is unanimous. Who wants to go first? Sue?
Oh, I can go first. It's
Okay, you're not, you're something. No, it's not really, down under wastewater treatment. I like your form, although I'm not a lawyer. You can't do 9 points. Sorry, you can't do 9 point things. You gotta bring it all.
Oh, I apologize.
You gotta bring it all up.
My apologies.
Maybe it's a page document.
Okay.
And I would suggest it has a time.
If you need copies, I have copies if you don't.
Everybody get a copy?
Make sure I copied it off.
Oh, nobody got a
Carl
copy.
sent.
You sent it on to me? All right. I have two sizes, I'll pass it along. They are proposing, asking us to review and comment on the proposed conditional discharge agreement, which came about because they now have some breweries and other people who want to put things into the sewer system that aren't necessarily covered.
I had run into Jim Crowley that you had mentioned,
Yes.
and had a brief conversation with him, and the only thing I wanted to bring up was that he said we actually have no sewer use ordinance in town. Is that?
There is sewer ordinances, but it's a vague, short section.
Very vague, very
And
short.
it basically says, well, you're not supposed to put anything into the sewer that is hazardous to the sewer plant or to the collection system, the piping in the ground, the pumps and so forth. Breweries have notoriously high strength effluents. And if we have someone who's just got a brewery that's going to go into town, they're just going to brew beer, they're going to produce somewhere between 6 and 10 gallons of sewage water for every gallon of beer that they make. And it's particularly high strength because there are things like hops and barley and yeast in those waters when they're cleaning out tanks and stuff. So none of the people who are starting breweries are going to be particularly hazardous in the amount of sewage that's going to the sewer plant. So what we did was, since there's no ordinances and we didn't know how soon the existing businessmen who want to open breweries in town are going to, we didn't know what that time frame was. We wanted to just have the ability to protect the sewer system, just in case. You may know that one of the breweries thinks they will produce something in the vicinity of 400 gallons of beer a month. The other one, I think, is under 1,000 gallons. So even if it was 10 gallons of sewage for every gallon of beer, that would still only be 4,000 gallons and 10,000 gallons. However, because of the potential high strength, what we'd like to be able to do is to ask the brewers before they, or when they start to open up, we can give them a conditional agreement where they would agree to, if we wanted to have their effluent tested, that they would indeed test it for the high strength items, BOD, which is biochemical oxygen demand. And that's one of the most important ones to us at the sewer system, because oxygen is one of the ways that the microorganisms are kept alive on the way to the sewer system and to the plant. And the oxygen is important to keep them alive so that they're breaking down sewage at the plant. If you had a larger brewer or someone who's doing 10,000 gallons or 20,000 gallons, I think it would be more prudent to have someone do the testing, get us the results, and then we can discuss, hey, your effluent is a very high strength effluent. Please do some more testing. We would like for you to reduce that BOD at your establishment. A smaller brewer who might have 400 or 500 gallons a month that they were making could conceivably do that with literally a 55-gallon drum with a feed bag in it. And you know what a feed bag is, like barley or hops or even birdseed comes in it. They have those, it's like a microwave, and they could literally put some of the stuff in that 55-gallon drum when they're cleaning out their vats and let the water drain out, holes drilled in the bottom of the vat. I mean, it's not a difficult thing to reduce it. And we're not saying they have to reduce it from 10,000 to 5,000. But what we do want them to do is to put as little hops and barley and yeast and all that stuff down the drain.
So it'll be okay to let it run on the ground?
Yes, well, here's the thing.
Well,
With the holes drilled in the bottom, the bag keeps that, any of the grainy stuff, or I forget what the other stuff is called, it's like a slurry. That stays in there and the water will slowly drain out. Then they just take the bag out and that goes to either a farm for feed for cattle, if it's the grains, or if it's the other stuff, it can be applied by a farmer onto his land. You can't use it for feed. So anyway, what we wanted to do was to at least have something that we can say, hey, we're not trying to penalize you, but if your sewage is going to be really high strength, we really want to protect the system. That's all. And we don't know what the time frame for the people who are having the breweries, we don't know what that time frame between now, I mean, we thought some of them were going to open in April. Now, maybe that's not the case, but if they are, we'd love to be able to have the ability to do that, to make them test it. And in addition to that, we would like for us to be able to get a tour or to see their facilities, just to make sure they're not run and jump right down the drain and, that kind of thing. In addition to that, if they did have a high strength effluent, we wanted to be able to determine when they were going to flush that stuff down into the drain. If they said, hey, we're running a batch this week, on Thursday, we're going to empty the vats, clean them out, and hose them out. We would like them, the ability to say, hey, don't run it on, and I'm just picking, the 4th of July weekend or something like that, because we anticipate there would be a lot. I'm just picking, So that way, well, what we didn't want to do was to have a time when there was high flows. For example, a storm. We wouldn't want them putting it down there when there's all this other water coming in and everything's going to just get washed in. In addition, we didn't want anything that was, and we put this in here at Jim Crowley's recommendation. We wanted to be able to prevent anybody who's putting really hot stuff. And I'm not saying it would be a brewery, but there's a coffee place that's going in, there's going to be a coffee brewer. And we don't want 10,000 gallons of boiling water coming down. You know what I mean? It would, scour the inside of the pipes and possibly be detrimental to the microorganisms that are in the pipe on the way in. So anyway, I know that this might be unorthodox to ask if we could use an agreement like this, but we would love to do it. particularly because we don't have the ordinances. And if we work on the ordinances, I mean, I'm assuming it would take months or over a year to get them into the actual practice, the actual hard ordinances. So anyway, we would like to use a letter like this. Even if you critiqued it and said, well, we'll take that one, but not this one. We would love it if we had that ability. Yes,
Question, name,
Robert Lawley. I'm Robert Lawley, the superintendent of the sewer plant now.
who devised this, who came up with this letter?
It was collaborated between myself, Rick Gaith, and a man named Jim Crowley, who was he's our sanitarian from the Department of Environmental Protection. And he made recommendations on it.
You've seen it there.
Can I make a motion?
You may.
Can we send this to the town attorney to have him check this over?
We can't, we can recommend that you go through with the selectmen and have it reviewed by the.
Yes, and in fact, I gave a copy of this to John O'Connell, who, I wasn't there, but he said he brought it up in the last meeting of the select board. Now, unless he didn't get to it, but that was he told me he would.
The subject came up, but he didn't say anything about putting it to the.
Oh, he didn't? So I will follow whatever step you would like me to.
We always recommend that all of our steps.
To make it clear, this is not just the breweries, it's gonna be any large.
Yes, and in
body.
fact, yeah, in fact, the reason that we titled it that way was because in case we would need to use it for a coffee brewer or somebody.
Or anything,
Yep,
yeah.
good.
Yes.
I think it's a great idea,
But
as long as it's widely spread, not just aimed at
Gotcha,
one thing.
yes.
And as long as the town attorney approves it, I think it's a great idea.
and as far as I'm concerned, it's not something we happy to endorse it. I think we will by vote here in a minute, but, I think you're free to develop your own rules and regulations.
Okay.
The planning board is, they can adopt procedures that aren't written down, but that's okay.
What we would like to do, and believe me, we are all about making sure that the businesses in this town are promoted and have the freedom to do what they need to do. All we're doing is protecting the sewer plant and the collection system.
And of course, it starts out with, if the planning board gets the project, your department, and the water department, the fire, depending on things, but the fire department, police department, all get said, we want you to review and comment. And if any of them ever came back with, hell no, that would kill the project as far as planning board is concerned.
Okay.
Because planning boards are, some town departments is detrimental to the town. We don't have
I
that
understand.
depth of knowledge to understand that particular,
Okay.
whether it was maybe there's no fire, it needs something for fire, protection, and they weren't putting it in and go off with it.
Well, let me ask you that. At your recommendation, I would still like to follow whatever path it would be most prudent to get this so that we could use it if needed. So should my next step be to go before the select board next week and say, I would love to use this document just in a setting like this, and make the recommendation that people from the ordinance said that legal entities for the town should look at this to see if it would be legal and could you do it?
Yeah, because there's a lot of,
Okay,
you're putting a lot of, on the developer, whoever it is,
okay.
potentially putting in it with no limits. That was the thing that got me, was there's no real limits.
Yes,
It
do you
says
want
you
to
will
know?
pay, but it doesn't say up to or what the
Yes.
age of that is.
If this guy in the closet up and started dumping stuff in tomorrow, for example, there's no law that says he can't, right?
Yes, you see, that's one of the things, I didn't want someone to start a brewery in their garage, and then the next thing you know, they're producing, hey,
I can send it out to Southern. That goes out in the swamp line.
I went to a brewery discharge class last week
Okay.
in Portland at the Allagash Brewery. And they had all kinds of people talking about starting breweries and what they do and all of that. And because we're a smaller town, there's no pre-treatment department that would cover breweries. And I know they have 15 or 16 of them in Portland.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so,
They did an article recently, and part of it was how many breweries, they had to correct it before it was said to up like 12 more than they knew about.
but anyway, so if I follow the path of going to the select board and then finding if they could have attorneys look at it and just make sure I'm not too tight on or doing something illegal.
Can I make a
You
motion?
certainly can.
Make a motion that the board likes the idea, says it should be subject to legal approval,
Okay.
and we endorse it, so the board endorses it subject to legal approval.
Okay.
I'll second
From that, you can take the selectmen.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I will follow that path. So-
The other thing I was going to mention was, at the selectmen's meeting, I think they said that it could be added to the business license form. On the back where the police say, okay, and
Oh, yes.
enforcement officers say,
Okay.
okay. You could also have the wastewater treatment plant say, okay, and then you go. Then they wouldn't get the business license until they.
Okay.
But I wouldn't give you okay until this goes in the letter.
Okay. I will. Thank you very
I
much.
didn't even know that was there, so good.
Thank you very much. Yes.
If he made a motion, I made a second, we should have a vote.
Is there any discussion on the motion to adopt?
I just, some of the wording.
Sure.
I remember seeing the revision, the email saying at any time.
Well, anytime, when we're talking about anytime, you're talking about what bullet point there? Number
Yeah.
1, 2?
Yep. I mean, scheduled, because, you know.
Oh, yes, listen, we don't want to come marching into your establishment any old time. But if we had a problem, we want to be able to call you and say, hey,
Oh,
can
absolutely.
we, I mean, I'll alter language if that's what you think. And please, feel free to make a recommendation. I have no objection to any input from any person on this board. So,
Right.
for example, you're saying, and can you please point out exactly where you say?
So required this allow on-site property at any
How
time.
about if I put at any convenient time or something like
Yeah,
that?
something
Convenient
scheduled.
time, yeah, and I have no problem doing that.
Yeah, just because, you know.
Yes. I will make that change.
Excuse me.
Thursday.
Is that in number 3?
Yeah, yes,
Or
and
is it
I'm
on-
totally fine with whatever's convenient for the business owner. I'm not trying to,
Because the last time
at
anyone
any
wanted to
convenient,
waste
no,
anybody's time.
gotcha.
Use the
Oh, yes,
word
listen, and we're not gonna
reasonable,
come into it in the
use the
morning.
word reasonable.
Okay, thank you, I will.
Right, perfect.
Reasonable time.
Okay,
I think you're doing
I'm going to
right.
put, if it says something to the, to allow on-site property access at any reasonable, convenient time?
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, and please, feel free to contact me over at the sewer plant if you have other ideas for it or any other edits.
Any further?
Any further? We good?
Yes.
Public? All right. No public?
Public input?
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
I might just add, we might do at a time that, to be determined between the person that's going to do the inspection and the owner. That might even clarify it cleaner, a little bit cleaner for everybody. Other than that, it's a great recommendation.
Okay.
Now, would that change the site plan requirements?
How?
Since, from my understanding, he's gonna push that to be a requirement for the general business license?
No, that was only said that it could be put on the back if you've already.
As one of the check-offs.
And then if you, because not everything comes through, once a business license comes through the planning board.
Right, so I think in
The site plan is still, it's gotta be signed off by the various departments as appropriate.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if you're doing something where a fire is not a consideration, I may say you don't have to get the letter, or more likely the police, but if you were running a music hall or, dance hall, that police input is definitely important, so.
Right, so it would be a less of a requirement for the site plan since it has to go through the JBL anyway?
No, it would be the same thing, except the sewer district would have to sign off, there'd have to be proof that the sewer district, if the sewer district would send us a letter, and they'd say, we're okay with it, or it doesn't really need anything special, or it needs this letter, and we'll approve it, and the letter is, the agreement is signed.
Okay.
And then we'll just get a copy of your site plan application.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You still need to take.
You're the other brewery?
I'm sorry?
Are you the other brewery?
No.
No.
No. I'll probably visit them sometimes.
All right, all those in favor, didn't we? All those in favor? It was unanimous. Oh, now see if I can find my agenda again. officers here, if you don't know Bruce, to talk about these things that,
So, should we let Mr. Davis go first?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't wanna go, I can follow the agenda.
I may be a while, so.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm Don Davis, 21 Middle Street, Wiscasset. And I'm here because I seem to be in violation of one of your codes. And that is the flying of flag with letters on it. And having reviewed this, it was my understanding that I had to go to the Historical Preservation Committee and apply through them for an exemption for this. They didn't seem to want to touch it, and kind of mailed it back to me and said that I should go to you folks, or go back to Bruce first. And then Bruce advised me that I come before you folks. Having done the research on it, I did find that, like all ordinances that get put into towns, and they're never looked at, something comes up on a sore thumb once in a while to say, maybe you ought to take a look at this a little bit, particularly in today's environment, politically, as well as rights violations, that type of thing. To say that somebody can't fly a flag with words on it, other than expressly said in the ordinance, quote, open, unquote, open. Everything else is exempt. I think that's something we should probably need to take a look at. Having driven around town right after this occurred at the end of November, 1st of December, I found that an awful lot of businesses in town are actually in violation of it also.
Have them for you.
Well, that's my point.
Where did you say the flag was? Is
Mine?
Yes.
Mine was at 21 Middle Street. That's where I live. My residence, however, was on the Water Street side of the
What does your flag say?
well, it doesn't really matter, does it?
Well, that's what I was wondering, why, so it's not about what it's saying?
Should it?
I'm curious.
No, I know why it got reported. It was jumped on the Trump train. So, but I'm trying to keep that out of it. That really has nothing to do with it.
It was a political flag.
Political flag.
Okay,
It's favoring the President of the United States,
okay.
Donald Trump. So, you know, I upset the neighbor, obviously, and they reported it, and this is the way it came back. Once again, having driven around town and seen all the other flags of businesses, and I'm not going to mention any businesses at all because that's not my intent here whatsoever. There's a long list of them. You get down to the civil rights aspect of it, First Amendment falls in there a little bit. A couple of occasions that I can think of right off the top with personal property and freedom of expression, things like that.
You put a sign up but not a flag, is that?
That's correct. Your regulation, your ordinance is Article 3, 7 exempted signs, Section 7-7.1-U, to be specific. And it specifically says the word flags. There are other things in there that address political signs and whatnot, but flags seem to fall under that.
How big is the sign?
I'm sorry?
How big is the sign?
It's a typical flag, you know, the size of an American flag and the state flag. I have the dimensions here somewhere when I applied for the application.
It's probably 3 by 5.
Yeah, close.
Probably the other side.
3 by 5, somewhere like that. I don't think it's even that large. I think it's the next one under that, but somewhere around 3 by 5.
So somebody called and complained, and then you talked to Bruce, and then when
I assume that's what happened. I received a letter
Okay, I
from
was
Bruce.
curious how-
I received a letter from Bruce
Okay.
saying
you
I
went
was
to
in
his
violation.
clerk, and they didn't
The
want to.
barrier release.
No, I called him the flag police, but that's,
Well, I'll tell you.
he's actually been very good to work with.
Something's very wrong. You can't have the President of the United States flying on a flag.
Well, if you notice,
Put it
one
on
of
a
the,
sheet, do
one of the-
whatever you want.
one of the stipulations in that is that if it is a state or federal entity, it can fly. That's exempt, like a Maine flag, for example.
Flags and a nation or governmental division.
Correct. Now, you start getting into things like that, you take a look at the post office, and that's got a POW sign. Technically, by this, even that's illegal. And then you go to the Legion House and American Legion and.
So where does it say?
Yeah, except we have no jurisdiction over federal property. It's just like the state of Maine could have anything on their own
Yeah,
property.
but the Legion is not state property.
And they fly POW signs. A lot of people fly POW.
So this wasn't on your property.
It is, yeah.
Okay,
It's, I put the flagpole in, it has a yard arm on it, which means that you put
Yeah.
one American flag on top, and you
Yes.
put two on the side. One had the main state flag, and the other one had the Trump flag. And the Trump flag was the one in violation.
So, where does it say you can't fly a flag?
Get your ordinance open.
I am looking at.
Page
Yeah.
38 or 40.
Under exemptions,
Page 38, 131,
Page 38.
it gives a list of
Section U.
exempted flags.
right about that square in the middle.
Under U, the last sentence,
Yep.
That is prohibited signs, exempted
Letters, words, and
signs.
numbers.
That's exempted.
Right, but it says, the last sentence, banners, flags, and pennants that include letters, words, or numbers, except those that stay open, are not exempt.
This is in the whole town.
This is in the whole town.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Size.
there's a particular size for the whole town, and then the village is a smaller
Oh,
designation.
I know exactly why it's there, and I knew this was coming up, like,
How long have you been waiting? 20 years for this thing?
Could you share?
His hair was a different color back then.
Yeah.
And once again,
it wasn't gray, now, and
And once again, you know, I have personal feelings about this, that's the reason I brought it, but I also understand your position, having served as a selectman for 2 terms, 6 years out of state, and a water commissioner for 6 years. I understand the rules and regulations that you fall under at state, town, and federal.
I remember when we wrote this, when we overhauled this. And it was exactly to try to control and all the various business signs, sizes, and at least at that particular time, there was very strong desire to keep signage small and relatively.
Oh, yeah.
Relatively unobtrusive. We we're an opinion, you gotta understand, the ordinance review and planning board are not enforcement agencies.
Well, I talked to the enforcement
I know.
officer, and he's brought me to you,
I know.
one of them,
We-
not to another, and I'm just wondering where else I
And
go.
from the bottom line is, it's his call, not ours.
But what he's asking to do, I think, is to change
Modify.
the ordinance.
Yeah, let's do that.
Who's in charge of changing the regs?
Yeah, well, we're not in charge, we're in charge of doing it once we're directed by the selectmen.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask, can we do something without being directed by the selectmen?
We used to,
No,
we did, we
we
used
may
to.
have, but
It's-
when you change chairman,
They
you
probably,
may.
normally the
Exactly.
selectmen tell us.
We'll go back to
And
that.
honestly, I think you should go speak to the
Well,
selectmen.
that's my
That's
next
right.
question, is that my next step?
Yeah, and get on, either get on their agenda or go speak at open comment that, listen, the most popular flag that's on in America right now says help wanted. So it's everywhere, in every town.
That's on my list.
And you're not telling us that it's illegal in this
Yeah.
town, you know? So, I think you're 100%, personally talking now, not for the board, I think you're 100% right, and I think we should modify the ordinance, but the selectmen have to tell us what ordinance to look at for us to modify it.
Okay? More than happy to.
And when we were drafting, and I remember that was your point of view when we were drafting this, so not that I try to have a point of view one way or another. The other thing what did I say? It's unenforceable, the whole thing's unenforceable, politically can't be enforced.
Oh, is the code enforcement officer going to get
A flag
overtime?
jacket.
Overtime for all the flags you need to go around checking all the time?
The only reason, I had another gentleman call and say, what if I want to put up this flag or that flag on my property, since that's going to be against the freedom of, freedom of speech? I said, look, someone complained, I had to do something. I'm not gonna drive around town and beg everybody for every little thing I find. I won't have that much time. I
That's what
don't
I'm
have that
saying,
much
you don't
time.
have the time to do that.
And he'd need a flag jacket.
And I,
Yes.
and I have no personal opinion either way on this. This is what the ordinance said, somebody complained, and I sent a letter.
No, I never liked the way it was very part of this place.
So I guess if it was a sign, if he had painted this on a piece of plywood
Yeah.
and taken it to jar, it would have been fine.
It's a negative.
In fact,
This is a
flag.
flag.
In fact, it's a
Right.
flag.
So that draws attention once again to all the other flags in town in front of businesses. And mine's a personal residence, but the residents apparently fall under the same regulations as businesses, from the way I can read it, because it is very loosely written.
And can the planning board unanimously make a suggestion to the selectmen saying this, we feel that this needs to be looked at? And would you give us permission? Can we ask them and not just
We've
wait
done that
for
before.
him?
We have asked before.
Well, I make a motion, we ask them. To look
I
at this
second the
ordinance.
motion.
Thank you, Al.
Would you like to narrow down the scope, or are we revising the entire plan?
No, I
It goes
guess,
down to the bottom of the list here, guys, right after marijuana.
so should we just say,
Well, technically, it could go before marijuana, depending on how the vote is.
exempted signs?
Okay, let's just, for the sake of argument, if it says something about a train, I'm just, because it has words on it, right? That's the
Words
problem.
other than,
No,
Other than open.
Word open is the only one allowed on the flag.
can't even
so
have
we
one that
need
says
to
closed.
fix
Well, what's
those.
a flag, what's a pennant?
They're both the same thing, according to that also.
Yeah.
And
It's a little smaller.
And if you look up the flag in Webster's, it's any piece of cloth that hangs on 2 points.
Like more angles.
So it's Article 3 under the sign ordinance. Can we specifically state what we want looked at? Article 3 under the sign ordinance,
How
number,
about delete the whole thing? Stop.
number 7. And 7U. We'd like to look at that. If they'd give us permission. I'd like permission to
Permission to review.
review and revisit what that says.
Review,
Update
Revise.
and revise,
and revise.
and advise.
Advise, oh yeah, no.
I wouldn't, not to interject, but I wouldn't limit it to just you, because flags fall into several other categories.
So maybe the whole,
That's correct, that's what I was going to say.
7.1,
Correct.
okay, that's good with me. 'Cause maybe we don't need to touch it out.
The entire
7.1.
ordinance.
I might even back it up to just the 7, which says exempt
After that, we'll
signs.
go back and do the rest of the ordinance. Yeah, you'll have to realize that even if they authorize this next week,
It has to go to the following
Oh.
town meeting.
This has been going on since November, so I'm in no hurry.
Oh, good.
I had to go away for a month to Florida, month of February, so I took it down so I wouldn't incur a $100 a day fine, and I did put up a true sign flag of a white flag. Shows that I can, it was close.
I'm sorry.
Okay, here we go. So we got that, now we need a,
We didn't vote.
no, any
No,
further
no,
discussion
no,
or
we're done on motion.
revision? All those in favor?
Pay for the, yeah.
In favor?
To ask to review it, to review the flag.
You have to ask for permission.
we'll just look at it. That should be it.
Yeah, it seems like a big freedom of speech issue.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Would you, it was gonna be for this,
It's deep rooted, back to the Constitution.
Would you like me to still go to the board and bring it to their attention?
Yes.
Okay, just so
Yeah.
they get it from both sides, and
Yep.
it might move a little bit faster.
Exactly.
The thing is, if we ask the selectmen to do this, and John puts it on the agenda, then you can't speak during public comment. You may be able to speak when they're talking about it, but
Well, I'll call the office tomorrow and say, how do I get on the agenda? Happy to do that.
I'm just saying, sometimes people come and it's already on the agenda and then they can't speak.
Oh, really? Huh? I didn't know that.
Now, what do you mean?
Public comment period, you can talk about anything, other than what's on.
Well,
the agenda.
usually you invite anyone in the
Let's
public.
see, so I
Oh, selectmen don't do that.
Yeah,
Selectmen don't.
Okay.
It's interesting. I don't think
That's
that's
not
what's
right.
going on.
Hey, once you get public, you're unique. All right.
I appreciate it very much.
Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
luck.
Good luck.
Thank you very much.
You got a name, right?
Good luck to all the
Yeah,
businesses
sounds
too. And thank you very much on the part of St. Philip's for the donation of those refrigerators. I heard that yesterday in the announcements. Thank you. Well, have a good evening. Thank you very much.
Yes, you had questions?
Yeah, so you want to tell us about where we're headed with some of these things? Or
About
where we
what?
might be headed?
I'm sorry, what?
Would you like to tell us where we're headed with some of these things, like abandoned?
Well, I don't know what you would like to do about some of these things. It's the reason I was asking about them. Certificates of occupancy are not required in Wiscasset for residential buildings.
Or not?
They're not. The banks don't require them.
I thought we had a section called certificate of occupancy.
That is for non-residential buildings.
Oh.
They're not required for residential buildings.
I remember you and I had that conversation last summer, I think.
We did.
I was pretty surprised.
This is from last July.
Yeah, I was pretty surprised to realize that.
Because I had a house that, builder, and they closed on the house before I could even see the crawl space in it, and I never saw any of the plumbing in the crawl space. And those poor people had these stupid heaters on the walls and no heat in the basement. I know their feet froze on their floors this winter if the plumbing in the basement didn't freeze. And I had no way of making them make sure that it was right. And the builder said, you don't have the MUBEC code, which is the main uniform building and electric code. So you can't make me build it.
Electric code?
According, yeah, I think that's what it stands for, electric code. You can't make me build it to that code. You have no
Because the town has
enforcement.
less than 4,000 residents?
Because you're under 4,000 residents,
And haven't adopted the code.
and we haven't adopted the
We
code.
can voluntary, if I remember rightly, we can voluntary adopt the code.
Any town over
If we hit
2,000.
4,000, then we have to adopt the code, right?
Right, but I thought I saw someplace where the last actual amount of people in Wisconsin was 39 something. That was a couple of years ago.
Go round some people up, move across the board.
And we've probably, and they're getting ready to do another count. So I'd almost bet we're gonna have to do it. But it'd be good if we did it, so I can enforce this and enforce the certificates of occupancy.
But we're, how, okay, but, so this is twofold, we really have to adopt the building code,
Well,
right?
I can suggest right now that they make changes to what they're doing. But if the builder says, I don't have to do it because you can't enforce it, he's right, I can't, so.
So you pretty much have to give a certificate to,
So if we go to the MUBEC code, then I can enforce it.
see, I had this conversation with at least two before you, I believe. And he did not want to adopt the code because, for the complexity of it.
Right. But the builders still have to build to the building code. Just because I cannot say you have to do it, they still have to build that way. And that's why I tell them, you still have to build it to it, and I want my suggestions or what? And I can't without a certificate of occupancy, these people can come in and build whatever they want, and I can't stop them.
Very strange.
Very strange.
So, if,
Or something else you just brought up or you were on the list? I think there's an
So you're
exception.
saying build a house, they're supposed to build it, because they're like, we all know that how it's supposed to be built.
well,
They're supposed to, but you can't make them do it. So they can build whatever they want and move someone in, and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's right. I can jump up and down and scream like a 6-year-old, want a piece of candy, but I don't think I'm gonna do that.
Non-residential, he has
And
enforced.
non-residential, the commercial buildings, I can enforce that to the hilt,
Right?
because they cannot get a certificate of occupancy or their business license without going through and doing it, building according to the International Building Code. And I think the latest one is the 2015 the new one is getting adopted to 2018, there's another one coming up in 2021.
I remember when they were talking about that, where I used to live, that the code from 5 years ago was finally gonna be adopted, then we're gonna start right on over with this other one.
Yeah, it's just like my plumbing code book is 4 or 5 years old. They've already changed it to the new edition. I said, wait a minute, you can't do that. Well, yes, you can. I go, "Gee, where's that at? 2015 code, catch up."
That's crazy.
So,
Well, he has to,
So,
we have an ordinance, I haven't even got to
yeah,
find it.
yeah.
Page.
it's
It's
just,
on page 26.
You were talking that one last time.
It says certificate of occupancy.
Hmm?
I said there is a section in the ordinance that says certificate of occupancy, but I guess that's only for,
Yeah.
Non-resident?
yeah, it does say non-residential.
Non-residential.
Must issue.
Unless I'm reading it wrong, I could be,
Non-residential structures,
Could be
buildings,
totally off
accessory
page.
buildings,
It's all set.
non-residential structures, buildings, accessory buildings, or lands which require planning board or appeals board approval or
So, does that mean you can
residential.
put their feet to the fire on the garage, a separate outbuilding, you can make them do stuff, but the house itself, you can't? It says non-residential structures, buildings, accessory outbuildings, or land, which require planning board or appeals board approval. Okay, so then.
so if it doesn't require planning board approval, I can't make them do it.
So, all houses in a subdivision, you have certificate of occupancy for. They have to obey a building code. But not
Not
unless.
just a single house.
For any non-residential structures, buildings, accessories.
This goes back to the historical,
Hmm?
I think this probably goes back to the historical nature of like the state of Maine and the people that, you know what I mean? The independent streak is very evident
That
here.
independent streak is continued.
And that's what I mean, but I think it's just because you can't really tell someone they can't build a house and move into it, apparently. You can't stop a person from building a shelter.
I can't stop a person from building a house, no. Can I stop them from making it dangerous? I hope so.
Right? But I mean, here you gotta go to school for 2 years to do hair and nails, but there's no contractor's licensing
No, there's
whatsoever.
no,
You know?
Well, we won't go there, we don't have, well, we.
I know, I'm just saying.
We could have a local contractor's ordinance,
that's whatever you guys would like me to do about it. And it's nothing I really need to know about tonight, because it's.
no, we just looking for direction on where we want to go on this, and so this, news to me that it would only apply to non-residential
Move
structures.
that code, that's amazing.
Do we, and once again, we need the selectmen to tell us.
Well, they have,
Yeah, that's right on our list of
There's
selectmen's
letters.
requests.
but we weren't given any particular,
Which
which way are we going here, what are we talking about?
So,
But doesn't this get back to, you need a, the town needs to adopt a code? A code, I don't know what one it is, but a
well, no,
code.
the move-back code is what the state, if you're over 4,000 are required to do.
All right, well, we're not, so
So
if the
you
town
have-
doesn't
you
have a
to-
building code, and we have one that's pretty loose.
So you can say that under the ordinance, you're using the IRC, the International Residential Code, for residential buildings. Or, in whatever year you want to pick, because right now you have a 2015 code. Or I have. There's 473 pages of it, but that's okay.
Yeah, I sort of remember that it was huge. I guess we got-
That, the current UVIC code is from 2015, is that what you said?
Yep.
Oh, you said international residential.
The International Residential Code, I think it's the same thing.
It gets back to this, I mean, we could just literally strike, word,
Non-residential.
non-residential, and you'd have.
You can strike non-residential
But
under
you-
there.
But then you need something in here that says this is what you get to,
Yeah, because there's some ordinances in there where it says one thing and the next paragraph it says something else.
no kidding.
So it's,
We have to
There's
throw out
been-
pretty
there's been
much
times
all
when-
the code. Oh, lovely.
okay, it says here I can do it. Okay, you can't prove you're wrong, so. This is why I'm here going, wait
So-
a minute, can we?
But can we
That will-
recommend a change that says, puts it right in there and that conforms to a code? Isn't that like getting the town, when they vote on it, to vote on two things? It's a sly way of bringing a code, any code that you choose in.
Hidden rider.
I don't care if it's a, idiot's guide to building your house, but. Because you could put it right there, like you said, we strike the word non-residential and we add some words about if this is a code that the code officer uses.
You
And all of a
don't,
sudden you're sucking in a document, because we could say, whatever, the
You could say-
2015 code or as amended.
You could say the current building code.
Yeah, well, we'd say, name one, the one that's current today, but say, or as amended, I suppose you could use it currently.
Because-
You have to name who's using it.
Yeah.
You can't come up with your own and change it every year, just because you're a college professor, not code.
Mullins Code.
Oh,
The Mullins Code.
I'm not still doing
No,
that.
no, it's
4
more
years
messed up
ago.
than the other one.
so you could say, the code enforcement officer must issue a certificate of occupancy before any, you could say residential and non-residential buildings.
Yeah.
And then, say based on or
The current,
according to the,
the current applicable code.
according to.
Oh,
No, yes, no?
there's no applicable code. Towns under 4,000 do not have to adopt any code, so you have to name the code.
The current building code, state building, or MUBEC or whatever,
The residential would be, IRC,
IRC,
International Residential Code.
Okay,
So what happens to like historic residences?
I'm sorry?
What happens to historic residences where it would be, really invasive for them to adopt the.
They'd be all grandfathered in, though. They've been built before.
HBC,
You
yeah.
know what
Mm.
Yeah, that's true.
We run it,
You do
yeah, we
construction.
run it into the
I
circle.
mean? Or it's remodeling, heavy remodeling or new construction.
Mm.
Most of the new construction that you're worried about, I think.
But the
Not worried,
The code is only for residential, right?
The IRC is just residential.
Okay,
IBC is, commercial, business code.
okay, so we put both of those in, right?
Well, then there's also the IEBC, International Existing Building Code.
Sorry,
The IEBC,
International Building Code.
Existing Building Code.
Building and electrical code.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would suggest you supply us with the names of these documents and the
Right.
current year that they're,
Okay.
or current edition, whatever it is. And,
I'll find out
We can
exactly.
change the language, but
You want to know?
just going back to the town, is the town ready to adopt a building code?
I'll get a hold of,
And we'll have to also look at the building code section to say we no longer need these.
Mm.
There may be things in there, I think like things like night watchmen are in there
Oh,
for a long time.
Mhm.
Or at least they were at one point.
right, I know
Mhm.
that. Okay, so that's one.
okay, that's one.
Solar farms,
Solar farms, we're getting a lot of interest in solar farms.
yeah.
There's one that wants to be put up at the airport, and another one that they want to do at the Two Bridges Jail. We're gonna do one there, and then there's another one out off of Bradford and Old Town, up that road there, it's got 30 acres, they want to put in 10 acres or 20 acres of solar out there.
Bradford Road, did you say?
Did you say Bradford Road?
Bradford, you know, where Bradford and Mountain Road and Roll Town all come together. There's a little side road that goes way out, and there's like 40 acres this guy wants to buy. So, we need to know what you guys want to do for permits,
Well, they have to
and
come.
how much you want to charge for permits, and where in town they're allowed and where they're not.
I can see this keeping us busy for quite a while.
Yeah, keep us
It's
going.
just it's nothing that has to be really decided tonight. It's just something to,
At the moment, they already, I mean, we've already done one. They come through this, they have to come through the planning board under the site plan application.
yeah. And if they're over 10 acres, then they have to go through DEP.
Which I did not know, but we actually don't have to know that at our level.
So I think the airport one is what, 20 acres? And they split it in 2 sections,
Yeah.
so they wouldn't have to go through DEP.
Oh, is that one?
But they're still gonna have to go through DEP because I'm gonna make them.
10 acres of solar panels on private land.
On the airplane.
Yep.
It's just-
So now I haven't heard this, now they're splitting them. Well, they have to come to the planning board, they're splitting.
At least that's the last I heard. So-
Is it all on the town property?
Mhm.
No, it's not split. I don't care if it's physically not connected, it's not split, it's on town property.
Okay, yeah.
Right.
So.
Oh.
And I don't know the size of the one they wanna do down here. Because at the Two Bridges Jail.
You know what, they're gonna claim, it's on Two Bridges land,
Mm-hmm.
county land,
It's on.
no
it's
jurisdiction,
on-
you have no jurisdiction on county land. They can do anything they damn well want on county land.
So they can't do it without going to suit before you guys, or?
I would bet that could make the same argument, even though we didn't review the jail. But they could make the argument that you have no authority over county land, just like the state says we have no authority over theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Just ask the town of Edgewood and talk about the maintenance
So they
facility.
said, because it's in Wiscasset, we didn't know what you guys wanted to do about it.
Well, we'd love to review it, and we could argue you already have a site plan, therefore you're coming back. If I ever get a chance to make another change to the site plan, it's gonna make it clear that once you're under site
I
plan
don't-
review,
I don't-
you're always under site plan
I
review.
don't know which company wants to do it, the guy from Saginaw County Sheriff's Department, he's part of the board,
Well,
didn't say how big it was, who was doing it, or anything else.
it's a thing, it's the in thing now, and they're doing it every year.
Okay, so you want me to tell him that he's gonna have to come up with some
Well, they
examples?
probably have to come through, we could try. We should make the effort, but he has to come through the town review process. If
Okay.
it boils down to lawyers, it's up to the selectmen to make that decision.
Okay, I can do that.
But since the jail already went through the approval process, they essentially assented, if that's the right word, I want, to us having jurisdiction.
So it's already, the jail went before you guys.
Yeah.
So now, if you're gonna, according to what you told me about Napa, if it's already been, had a site plan review, and any addition would require a site plan review.
That's up to him. He's gonna get it.
Okay, I'll tell him they have to come before you guys.
And you're right, I told him that, firm.
What if
He
this
didn't make
guy
it
hadn't
happen,
come-
but, huh?
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. If this guy hadn't come and asked you, you wouldn't know he was doing it up there, huh?
If he can't.
There's no law against putting solar
Yeah,
in?
he probably would've gone ahead and done it if he hadn't done it already.
Right, but I mean, there's nothing that says he can't do it.
Yes, site plan, that's a disturbance of.
Just for solar,
If
for.
you get in there, yes, if you get in there, site plan, the solar panel would disturb enough land to trigger the site plan review.
Oh.
Wow. And the other, again, precedent, we want to highway or came in,
I can't do site plan
and
review.
one came to site plan review. I still argue that it's not set back far enough.
It is not,
I know.
I can't believe it's so close to the road. I'm
They-
surprised they're
their
not worried
surveyor
about
said it
snowplows
was.
getting it.
The surveyor said it was, so.
Right,
Okay.
That doesn't mean it was built.
right.
We don't do as-bills.
How about the abandoned mobile homes, if they,
I had somebody say, what are you gonna do about that old abandoned mobile home that's been there
Just one of
forever,
those.
that's fallen down in the middle?
Town took the land, town owns the land that the mobile home's on.
Pardon?
Does the town own the land that the
No.
mobile home's on?
No?
So it's just someone's mobile home sitting.
Somebody, grandmother used to live there and she no longer needs it.
But it's on somebody else's, it's on someone's property?
Yeah, there's several around town that are just.
And just the property and the mobile homes in it? But how do you?
I'm gonna say, how are we gonna figure out mobile homes versus just a house that's never, that hasn't been lived in X number of years?
Yeah, and the other
There's a
thing
tree
is,
growing up.
wait a minute, what happened to the thing that your land is your land? So what if there's a
What?
mobile home on it, isn't it their,
It usually has to do with people's,
Yeah.
yeah, feel free to be comfortable. You don't even have to sit in the middle.
like the
Closer to throw stuff at you.
It's getting late today, I might stink, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can limit the mobile homes, it has to be abandoned
abandoned homes?
dwellings.
Abandoned
dwelling
dwellings.
Are
residents.
they paying tax on the property? Are they paying tax on the property?
Somebody is, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'd have to go through Molly and find out if the
This comes
taxes
down
are
to an
paid.
eyesore issue.
Yes, that's what I was
Blight
gonna say, I don't
ordinance.
see how you could do
On
that.
Old Bath Road, there's two of them now.
Where?
Just on Old Bath Road.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
It's
there's two of them out
a
there.
danger to
There's-
the public?
Well, maybe it's not a danger, but it's an eyesore to the
Yeah, it
neighbors.
doesn't matter about eyesores.
Yes, it
I've
does. People
got,
can make a major complaint
Oh,
that that
really?
eyesore lowers their property values, and they don't want that.
Or
Makes
makes
it
it rural areas.
Jawanky Neck Road, there's a couple of them out there, somebody's, Jawanky Neck Road, there's a couple of them out there that's,
Yeah.
the one's right across from the airport.
Yeah.
And they're empty houses.
Yes,
Huh?
this is
They're
definitely a
empty,
conflict
empty
between
houses.
the
Yeah, this
finance,
is-
but
What?
Empty,
That's what I don't
becoming
get.
empty.
you can't have.
There's a lot of occupied houses that are
Yeah,
terrible
that's
too, and we can't just go around and start that.
Now, he's
We have to use our head a little bit.
I know.
And if you get it for back taxes, then you can deal with it, but,
and your eyesore might not be mine.
That's
Not
true.
to say it meanly, but some people can put up with more than other people, so then you've gotta have it, you know, what is an eyesore?
Yep.
They don't believe it.
So,
And that's where the fine line with the ordinances are.
however, you condemned a house on,
I
so
had
you,
one that I wanted condemned.
so,
And that's one of
Mhm.
the.
certainly a mobile home. you
That's
can
right next
condemn.
door to my
You can
house.
condemn.
why don't you condemn them?
I could have, but it would be because of the health department issues, health issues in it. But the bank, I talked to the bank, and they had rats in it, and I didn't want people kicked out in the wintertime. I didn't want the rats to leave on their own accord by with a little help from Modern Pest. But now that that's been taken care of, and they're telling me that they're gonna replace that house, which means that the old place that they torn up, they get a new one and get to tear it up, so, well, at least it's a new house. But these houses I'm talking about, these old mobile homes,
Yeah, all right.
they're falling down in the middle or whatever, and there's gotta be some guidelines on what I can do and what I can't do.
There's no blight ordinances or anything?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think, no, I'm not sure this,
So how about I guess we can talk about them all at the same time, the illegal junk cars. Is that about how many cars you're allowed to have that are?
Well, it's just,
that's covered, we have more.
basically what you guys want me to do with them. I mean, you know, we have an ordinance that illegal junkyards, but we're kind of sort of up against the wall. I tell them they can't have it, and they say, well, and here I go
Get that one
again.
going.
Not being able to have it strict enough or whatever to be able to
Well, your
come before the
automobile-
attorney and say, kick them out.
Your automobile junkyard is strong enough, because the town's used it a couple of times, but,
You know, it's just-
but that's
I don't know what I.
pretty much limited to automotive.
So,
So,
And is it in sight version? Is it about being in sight of the road with the junkyard, illegal junkyard? Is there, I don't remember if I've seen it, I'm just.
It's just, we have a couple of junkyards, it's not necessarily old cars, they're just junk. But I think that falls under the junkyard ordinance.
Yeah, what is that?
Junkyard,
General, and
That's something like 307.
I don't think, to go back to the basics here, actually.
370.
I understand, so abandoned mobile home, what about an abandoned house? It's the
Yeah.
same, because I don't think you can discriminate these days and age, in a mobile home. It'll fall down faster, but, and not too long ago, was going to a job site here in town, and I said, I've never seen that house in there, and it's, buried in the overgrown trees, nobody's been in it. I would guess since I moved to town, since I can't remember there was even seen it.
There's one on Birch Point Road like that.
Yeah, in the cemetery? Yeah. That's the one I just saw. So,
I mean, I'm not gonna
It's
go
like-
around looking for houses that are torn down or something, it's just like that stupid sign for that flag. I didn't go looking for that, somebody complained about it.
oh, come on, we're gonna get you a drone, put it up so you can search. Swimming pools that you haven't been able to, people haven't gotten permitted tax,
Yeah.
That was not long ago. It was in New Jersey.
500 feet
Back
by
when
school church.
Google Earth and stuff was just
Starting,
starting, and they actually went out and said, oh, we have like, but it was a lot, 50 permitted swimming pools, which is an income source.
Yeah, yeah.
And they got together kind of as a class action, said, you can't use drones.
Yeah, I went to the 80K class, the law class. It's that section of 80K where the code enforcement could actually take his own cases to court. And the question was brought up about drones. Can we use drones instead of, going on somebody's property, fly over it? No, invasion of privacy.
You can, but you, the code officer, can't. I can. But you can't.
Yeah, but if.
I can fly over anybody's property, all I need is visual control of that drone. And visual could be a guy, 2,000 feet from you, with a pair of binoculars. So
Yeah.
it's just a speck, it's like,
And
that's-
somebody said, well, can you fly over with an airplane?
Yeah.
You fly over with an airplane all day long.
That works on it.
You just can't take pictures because it won't be advised to admissible.
Well, you can't, but I can, again. I know,
I like this one here on performance standards, 8.7.8. All dismantling of motor vehicles shall take place only between the hours of 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Saturday. That's incredible. I mean, I know it's on the books, but that's incredible. You can't take your car apart on Sunday.
Or
That's what it's-
afterwards.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or after 6 p.m. I
I
mean,
may not be
it's
looking
old
at the right
school
place,
stuff.
but I'm not.
It's under that is ridiculous.
But I mean, it's there. I know there's old stuff. What'd you say, Carl, about when you go through the corner here, you're supposed to shoot your gun
Oh,
and ring your bell?
they
or
did
something?
strike a lot of the blue laws off, but it was still on the books, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago, that when you got to the intersection, you're supposed to ring a bell and shoot up your gun. Of course, now you run into that other ordinance about discharging your firearm, but you see everybody pulls out here, gets out, rings their bell, and fires it around.
Right, that'd be hilarious. For a minute.
Cows, so,
He's
You
getting,
gotta be careful where that round lies too.
oh no, we have full price presentation.
I'm just looking at the mobile home ordinance, and it says if you remove the wheels, and it's firmly attached to the ground, then you become subject to all the provisions of the building ordinance.
Yeah.
Does that help any?
It ain't home until you take the wheels off.
I don't see that we actually have a jump killer.
And tiny homes,
Oh, my God,
tiny homes are not allowed anymore. They
Yeah,
have they have to follow the building code.
Huh?
Tiny homes have to follow the building code.
yeah. In,
And if they take the wheels off of them, they definitely have to.
so it,
If it's got wheels on it, it has to follow the camper rules.
there was no minimum size. We talked about that last year too. There was no minimum size in Wiscasset for a house.
Yeah.
Right.
Code wise, there is a minimum size.
No.
Each
In
room.
Alma, they could. And they had a big kerfuffle about it out there. They wouldn't let those people live in that little tiny house, right? But in Wiscasset, there was no minimum size, right?
There is no minimum size.
I don't think so. But what I tell them is you've got to follow the building code.
Is that impossible to do in a tiny home?
Yeah, about 400 square feet, I think, is the smallest.
So there's some folks up on Bradford Road in a tallish trailer, tiny home. Some I've heard a couple people talk about that. Looked like a pretty sizable thing.
There's a tiny home out on the Bradford Road. And I got a tour of it, and I also saw the video from Richmond where they built it. That thing don't even come close to anything that resembles a safe house to live in. It's only got one egress, the wash machine outlet box is right in front of the electric panel.
There's a washing machine in it, that kind of house?
It has a composting toilet and a 20-gallon storage tank for the gray water.
So they had to get out of Richmond, I remember it was in the paper about Richmond.
Yeah, it was in there.
And there's no way, if you put, there's only one ladder, there's two upper bunks, and there's only one ladder for the two of them. So,
I don't get the kind of thing. I lived in a very small home when I
house.
was a kid. My brother lived in a loft, and I had the world's tiniest bedroom, and it stinks. I mean, it's no fun, you know?
I don't know
I
why
get
you
it.
want
My daughter's bedroom in high school was in the basement, and there is only one anchor, well, no. Okay, technically there's two, you could go through the bulkhead, so I've got it pretty well sealed up so that it would take you about 20 minutes to break your way through. Not a good idea, right?
But this time,
Oh, wait, the probable place of the fire is the furnace, which is adjacent to the stairwell, so she's not even gonna, doesn't matter, she can't get either egress. No, didn't take the window well out, but I didn't make it.
this tiny home, the guy wanted
And
to
she
buy
moved
a
away
bunch
from
of
it.
them and wear them out. I said, nobody's gonna live in this thing. So even think about it.
It must be around, it was a tiny house, Richmond, right on Main
Yeah,
Drive.
somebody was upset that it wasn't
Huh?
it wasn't planned, so they weren't paying taxes on a home, even though it was their home or
No.
something.
It was on wheels, so he had to pay excise tax on
Yeah, well, can't live in Wiscasset in a trailer either.
it. If it's tied to sewer and water, you can.
No. it has
That one
some
little house,
requirements.
that one little tiny place they had, they moved that out to a little Amish shed with a porch type thing, you know?
Huh?
There was those little Amish sheds with the porch, you know, that people get now. It was there, then they moved it out. It was there last winter and it's gone. Now there's a camper sitting in the driveway.
Okay, there's, I think, I remember reading this, the one on underneath it. And it was, to me, I read it, it's got a valid tag on that plate. 6, you cannot live in it.
I asked 3 people to move out this week.
But if you take your wheels off, deregister it, but then you fall under, this thing says no less than 450 square feet per trailer, so.
This isn't such a big thing out here, but there's other parts of the country where that's a real issue, where there's
Town.
huge, no, there's just huge encampments of homeless people living in
yeah.
Winnebago's and stuff. Like in Las Vegas, there's no place to rent, there's no place to buy, and all the service people that work in these hotels and all this are living in sheds and living in campers and living in
Oh,
tents, and it's,
When I went up to California, I didn't realize how bad, but you're exactly right. I went to San Francisco, that is a mess.
yeah, I guess it's just terrible, and
It's
stuff
just
on the streets.
unbelievable. I've never seen anything like
Yeah.
that.
You want to show there's nothing available under
Oh, yeah, I just came
$400,000.
back from Seattle.
You don't make $400,000
I guess that
when you
place is
table
just
even in the best
inundated with-
restaurant.
And I didn't realize all that, man.
No, it's a big deal.
Because I live here.
Well, they cater to them out there. They provide them with this, that, and something else out there, so they just.
Well, in San Francisco, they just use the streets as toilets.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's, I couldn't believe that.
And the upgrade resources.
One more question here, the business license process, is that to put the wastewater treatment plant on the back of the business license?
No, I'm not sure exactly what that was, but it seemed like at the time, there was some confusion as to how the business license is supposed to be handled. So whether the town clerk was supposed to do it, I was supposed to
Oh,
do
right,
it.
yes,
And
I
how
remember
the
that,
procedure
because
was.
the town clerk used to approve all business licenses. And then the selectmen said, well, we'd like to know which ones you're, so just give us just advise us. Well, then it got to the point where the selectmen were approving the business licenses, and it just went.
Well, then I remember one meeting at Bob Black and asked, we really have to approve these people's license? And they changed it to more of a welcoming, something like that. It was pretty
Originally
numerous.
supposed to be a list to help businesses before there was a viable chamber. And by
And it was
having
a
list-
1-year license, and now it's a 3-year license. You have to renew it every 3 years,
Right.
with the exception of certain businesses need an annual license. such as junkyards, fireworks,
Yeah, those.
hard liquor selling establishments.
I don't know when we got fireworks at.
Nothing you know about the fireworks stuff.
But I know when I helped originally write that one, there was not intended to be any approval process, it was merely a registration.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was nothing.
Yeah, it was
Right.
That was in the ordinance.
is that something you want us to look at?
Yeah, well, a little clarification on that would be good,
That's a jump.
just so I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Is it a home occupation?
Home occupation, that's a big one right now.
Oh.
You wanna drive into that?
What do you mean?
It's up to you guys, if you wanna delve into it now, you're gonna think about it for a while.
What does it
No,
mean?
home occupations has never been enforced, ever.
What
Not
are we
since
talking
I've been
about
on the
exactly?
planning board.
Home occupation, what is exactly a home
And we
occupation?
have an ordinance for it, it's 2.11.
I know, but it's pretty vague.
But what kills me is
You want a
that
business in
people-
your home?
Home occupation, it's not a home
No.
business, it's a home occupation.
Right.
It means that
What
you're
is the
running a
difference
business
between
out of your
occupation
home,
and
but
business?
Yeah.
Not much.
people, it started out, I was on the board when this came up, and it was that it had to be in your home, it couldn't be a building built separate on your property.
Mhm.
But I'm telling you, I live on Langdon Road, right above the Bronx, and you wanna talk about a business, that's a big business. And it looks like a business, and believe me, it smells like a
Should be
business.
accessible.
And I have complained about
they
that.
grandfathered?
They are not
Thought that
grandfathered,
was
that
church.
was a home occupation when it started.
Here, well.
So the thing of it is though, is here I am on the planning board, I've been on for almost 18 years, well, more than 18. But yet people say to me, they don't, some of the ordinances aren't enforced, that's not enforced. They have barrels of the smelliest, stinkiest stuff that you put on your clothes when you go
It could be
hunting.
just a massive pile of bucks out there at all times.
It's all kinds of barrels, it's all kinds of crap, it's on my land, okay?
Where is this in the-
So I went to the town attorney, this was when I was younger, and said I want to take them to court, because they've got all that crap on my land, and I'm tired of it, it stinks, it's horrible in the fall when they do
Oh,
their hunting
okay.
season.
A trailer below you?
I
Is that
can't,
yours?
we can't represent you because my dad was the guy down here, Dave,
So,
so I can't do it because my father's their attorney. So I was discouraged, I was young, I had 2 little kids, we just put our house up, built our house. It's just a bad sore point to me because I don't think any of that's enforced in this town. Bronx is a classic example. It's not their house, they built a totally different thing. It burned down once. And my daughter was the one who reported it, so it actually saved their company, their business. It burned down. We had to leave our home for 2 years. I had to lose some of my pension. So I'm telling you, if you're gonna enforce that, let's do it home occupation. Because it's not.
Yes, dear.
Okay?
Yes,
At least before I die.
So who's that trailer part of that property that's kind of on the hillside there?
Yeah, it's just a mess.
It's part of that
It's just a
same
mess.
spot.
And it's not fair, because like you said, the place is right beside yours, it's really tough in this town. And then, so whenever you try to get something like that done, people will say, well, nobody enforces the ordinance.
It's not that, I don't want to enforce it,
No, I know.
but I would have to jump up and down, screaming all like a 6-year-old.
Once they pass away, the Bronx, trust me, that'll be changed. I think it's just the type of thing that
We
they're.
finally did get the lady out of that trailer at that abandoned.
Oh my God.
And there
Some
was a girl
some
that-
nights.
She did get most of the stuff, garbage out of that trailer.
It's the scariest thing in the world.
It
I
is.
live on Lake Road,
I look at that just about every day. So
My
anyway,
neighborhood was
where's the
like
fine
this.
line on home occupations?
Well,
Whether it's retail or,
it doesn't make any difference as long as it's, as long as,
And as long as it's a occupation, profession which is customarily conducted on or in a residential structure or property, it doesn't have to be in the house, the garage is fine, or whatever, barn. And I remember that, because, what if I, been sawing, on a saw or custom cabinetry, I'm working alone, I want to work in my shop.
I love
Yeah,
this
more than
one so
someone-
much.
Which is clearly incidental to and compatible with the residential use of the property. No.
No outside storage of materials, Carl,
Yeah.
used in or products resulting from.
Yeah.
And you're not supposed to drive by their house and say that's a business. And we get uptight about some
No,
things. but we
no,
don't
there's nothing
enforce
about
it.
that.
Yes, it does, you can't, it's not discernible as a business.
She's looking at a different
Where are you?
section.
Oh, I'm on page 25.
The definition.
Home occupancy. And it says, there is no outside storage materials used in or products resulting from the home occupation discernible from a public way. In other words, you can't drive down someone's road and say, oh yeah, that's where they make, truck tires.
Because right at the moment, I have a gentleman next to the Congo Church that used to have the antique store downtown on Water Street, when it
Yes.
on the sidewalk.
Yes.
Well, he moved from there into his house and he wants to put his home occupation there with retail and then online selling of his antiques
Well, we can't.
and books.
But wait a minute. The reason I feel people started doing home occupations is so they didn't have to pay taxes to the town too. When you have a home occupation and that's your thing, you know, you just.
What's different than having like just commercial
Yeah, but
building?
you can't tell me that Comm's is not
Home occupation is supposed
commercial.
to be something that you make.
Yes.
It's not, you can't resell antiques or anything else. You're
No,
not making antiques.
my take on that one was that the guy wants to open up his business that he had on Water Street in his house on
Yeah,
High Street.
High Street,
High Street.
yeah.
Yeah.
Most of these houses, I mean, the antique stores are
I
actually
say, I always
houses.
thought most of the people on Main Street, for instance, that upper end that sell antiques that's a home occupation, even though they don't live there
All
full
kinds of
time.
antique stores.
But you can't have noxious odors.
No,
either.
yeah. Your particular case, there's a reason right there to be able to shut it
I
down.
know, but
So
you
the
can't.
thing that I'm looking at on this is if we don't get, I'm thinking if we don't get really specific about this,
I agree.
then every house downtown is gonna be a home occupation of an
Yeah.
antique store or whatever.
I agree.
Nobody
because
said
we
lot of
have-
antique stores already were.
Most of them are in the homes, old homes, aren't they?
Yeah, but I'm just thinking there's gonna be.
They don't look like they're ever open, but they've got a sign that says it's something.
Some people,
antique.
and
You
guess
knock
what,
on the
you're
door,
supposed to
"Can I come in?"
reside in a home occupation, you're supposed to live in that house.
But how do you prove it?
I don't know, because a lot of the places downtown, people don't even live here.
Voting. You go to the voting records, if they're not registered to vote in Wiscasset, then they're not living there, are they?
Yes, they don't
Well,
know.
Because
unless
they
they
have
don't
home
live.
there.
It's one way to look at it.
Right, oh, yeah,
They have to have a legal residence.
right,
To
this,
vote as a potential RV who wants to travel
Right.
full time, I find that offensive.
well, it gets around quick when you do.
Someplace.
So,
As soon as I registered to vote in
I think
Wisconsin,
it-
I lost my homestead exemption. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's out, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? I thought, well, this will take a little while. So, it took about a week, you know?
Yeah,
Must be
it's
600
not running
bucks.
rooms, but.
so if it doesn't have a sign out front, it could be a home occupation?
No, mine's a home occupation. I have a sign out front.
You have a sign out front? What's your home occupation?
Not a flag.
I'm a land surveyor.
Oh, right.
It's a sign.
Yeah, me too.
It doesn't wave in the breeze.
It's not a flag.
When I got my business.
No,
license-
and I have a permit for it. You wanna see it?
I believe you, but you're not hurting anybody around you. You don't smell, do you, when you go out and do whatever? I
Depends,
mean,
you know,
it's-
after it
Well,
doesn't serve it.
I can be a little smelly.
It all depends on if it's summer and the mosquitoes are out.
What I mean,
Especially if you
you're
don't like
following
certain
all the
bugs
rules.
like this.
You're following all the rules, except for the sign out front.
No, there's nothing against the sign.
It
No,
says
it
you
doesn't say
can't have.
anything about a sign.
Yes, it does. It says, blah, blah, blah.
It says blah, blah, blah.
No, it says you can't have something
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
road that shows that it's a business.
No, I don't think so.
And it can't alter the outward appearance. There's no outside circulation product resulting in a public way. You can't discern that the home occupation is in a public way. You can't discern it that way. So if you have the sign up, that's not right.
No, which alter the appearance of the dwelling, change it from a dwelling
Discernible
unit.
from a public way.
If I use the whole house, I'm arguing I could I could have a business there, but even though it looks like a house, if I got a business license. But I have a business license there.
When I got my business license, they asked if I would have incidental.
Well, you have,
Possibly a
you
small
have
amount of
your
stuff.
business there, but you don't allow any of your customers to be there.
No, you're right, I'm not inviting people on my property.
I have clients come to my house all the time.
What, and
But
he's
I wonder
chairman?
about the HPC, what they will say with the historic preservation ordinance.
I don't know.
We're selling antiques in an old house. They
Yeah,
probably
I
have-
know, there's so many old
My
ones.
God.
It's just a matter of,
We can look at this, but, I mean, it's gonna be a tricky thing.
Very tricky as a
I
chairman.
went through this.
that's why you guys are here, because you're the experts.
I, you know, disagree on the sign, because mine's no longer readable, but it's there, isn't it? If we stop and look for that,
You can make
it's
it
there.
8 or 10 pages long, so it's so confusing, nobody knows where to go.
Okay, should we just decide what we're doing with all this?
Well, we kind of got some direction, we'll work on abandonment. I don't think we can work on solar farm right at the moment. I don't know if we want, we can look at it.
We could look at these other,
Yeah, we'll try to see if other towns have any solar ordinances.
let's see.
Other towns must have abandoned house ordinance, because you go to some places, they don't have anything like that, unless you get way out.
So who wants to do the research on this?
Yeah.
Drive around.
Who's gonna take a homework assignment?
The code enforcement officer.
I can suggest.
Just.
So long as it's not after 5.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
I'll look at the clock.
And by the way, okay. Well, let's try to look at abandoned homes, and each of us can try to look something up.
Alright. Drive around, take a
What
look.
do you mean, abandoned homes, we all go look? at
Abandoned
some?
mobile homes, yes, drive around town, look at other towns for ordinances.
Check the ordinances in other towns and see
Okay.
what they have. You might ask about
Do
all
keywords.
these other things too.
Yeah, you can look for others while you're there.
I'll just look up home occupations in other towns.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
I think Edgewood has a better definition.
What's that?
I said, I think Edgewood has a better definition.
I'm gonna look at
That's
it.
one, yeah.
I bet it is better,
But
and I bet it gets enforced.
I mean, it seems to me that somehow or other it has to be things you make.
I know,
You
there's
know,
some,
like if you're a woodworker or something, and then you sell your product.
yeah.
does my making signs count? Under maps and plans?
Sure.
What about somebody who's,
But I'm thinking it wasn't,
Repairing
Something's fishy.
automobiles.
Growing marijuana.
growing marijuana?
Or conducting any business.
I was thinking more along the lines of you're a financial consultant and you deal, you know, everything you do is online and telephone.
right, attorneys and it can,
We had
real estate.
we had people here in town, they occupied the house across from the courthouse. They ran a very successful boat charter business. They had employees, they had, from the outside of the building. And that was a
See,
surveyor's office before that.
But you couldn't tell from the outside that it was a
They had a
business.
sign.
Right.
Like yours, it was,
Didn't have.
Yeah, that it conforms to the sign ordinance. And I mean, it wasn't the kind of business where no one would normally walk in, but you certainly could have.
Did they just sell those? Did they make them?
No, they chartered.
Oh, they chartered, oh, they
They
chartered.
It was like an Airbnb for charter boats,
Oh. Well, that's,
way out of my price range, but
yeah.
no. We're talking, most of their stuff I think was over 40 or 50 feet long.
Anyway,
Somebody says, I can't make these payments, I gotta run it out.
so for the minutes, back to that.
Yeah, for the minutes, you got it?
We're gonna look at all these things, right?
Yep, we're gonna look at all of them at some point. But not every.
Notice the word at some point.
you want.
Well, we're going down the list and we'll chew
I've
on
been since July, I get.
it. You eat an elephant one bite at a time. We will look at the idea of abandoned mobile homes, and since it seems to be home occupation,
Yeah.
Hold on,
she's gonna do some.
I'll do a little bit.
Liz, can she sit somewhere else when she gets excited?
All right, we have to get set up for planning board.
I think just leave it at,
Leave it running.
leave it ready.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay, all those in favor?
And,
Unanimous.
Next victims.
Today's in,
We're still being,
Recorded.
I can't say about it in time now.
I didn't know what to do.
Okay.
As up for residential.
But, Chris is, getting that.
Probably nothing's ever gonna happen unless you.
Like a mall, I traded this.
That's interesting to hear. I wonder about that being right there.
Yeah.
Gonna get into that. Get into some development.
So big. He's teething and growing. So I got like at 4 a.m. I get these night screams. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it would've been great.
We were building last night with my granddaughter.
They were talking about this long.
And she goes down to bed, so nice. The whole routine at night.
Yes.
Versus the other one, you're outside.
Yeah.
Got that.
On that same campus, same daughter. Tia, my youngest, is gonna have one. And he's gonna, hers just turned 3. And he goes to bed early. So I babysat for my husband's grandkids the other day, Saturday. They don't go to bed like that. It's unbelievable. We can get that baby to bed.
Megan has to go through it. And went through
Boy, he looks just like you. Look at this kid.
Well, I was hoping it
Is
looked
he?
like that.
It definitely looks like each other.
That is so.
He's got super dark red hair. My hair is definitely not like that. The wife's the red hair. She's super red. Has some Gaelic.
Blind Simon, which I didn't like at first, but I.
Speaking of which, I got neck tattoo today.
No.
Alright, so you guys.
Is Rachel
Goes back to the.
Because Rachel was always, she was the president. She was amazing in high school.
Oh, did you get a bunch of work?
You went back.
Peter went that way, here. planning board to order. We are all here. No one asked. Yes, yes. And the first order of business is a public hearing for the proposed amendments to Article 2, building laws, Article 7, subdivision, and the glossary, as recommended by the ordinance review committee. Wow, the public is overwhelming me. I think I overestimated how late I'd be for dinner.
Thank God I'm hungry.
Yeah, me too. Planning board's familiar with all these. Does anybody need any explanation? As the planning board members have any questions to anything? The one you probably, well, you got in your packets is the congregate housing / glossary where we're adding. We have already had elderly congregate housing, we're adding congregate housing. So, which will allow a density in certain areas under certain conditions, basically get that sewer and water on site and be a larger project. Hearing none, set in the record, the public hearing is closed. You may submit written comment at any time. Approval of minutes of February 24th.
I make a motion.
Yeah, motion, and a second by Lester. Any discussion? Corrections? All those in favor? Then unanimous has it.
No, one abstention.
Oh, that's sorry, I didn't see the hand.
I wasn't
I
there.
thought it was, what's the problem with that? You read them, didn't you? Yeah, we're all here for a change. All right, does anybody have any other business to bring up? Should know, those of you who aren't on the ORC, we've got a long list tonight of things to be working on, and some of them are gonna be, controversial. So, they'll be controversial in the committee, and then they'll be controversial if they go out to be voted on. So we got what, A through I. Now, technically, we may get the flag ordinance too. So. And so.
With that,
Wait a minute, somebody just came in, I'm gonna give them a chance. We're about to close the meeting because we're under other business. Did you have anything you wish to bring up?
Close what meeting?
this
The
meeting,
planning board meeting.
we had the public hearing.
I thought it just started at 6.
No,
Seven.
Or 7. It's 5 after.
Yeah,
And we've gone through the
There
agenda.
was nobody here to make any comment on the public hearing, so it was closed. The planning board meeting is adjourned. They have, is in session and they have no business, so.
Well, you had a huge list of business license redo.
that was ordinance review.
Well, that was ordinance review at 6
Not
o'clock.
planning board, that was at 5:30.
5:30.
That ran from 5:30
And
to
it
5:07.
ended 5 minutes before 7 though. So, basically, we went over with the code officer where the direction we're supposed to be going in because all we got was a list. So,
Okay, so
clarification of what we were supposed to be doing.
long overdue. That's great. Okay.
All right?
With that, it's 7:07, I make my favorite motion that we adjourn.
And I'll second that favorite motion of Daniel's.
All those in favor? Me too.
Early dinner tonight.
Thank you for coming, meeting the requirements.
Cabinet.
Oh, we're gonna talk, we're working on clarification. And do what that. Oh, it's more than the residents automatic. Got this code. That'll change. We don't now.
I don't want to get in trouble.
Long story
Where? Oh, yeah, I couldn't come to that last one.
Excuse me, what's your take
That's all I need. I saw the agendas on the board this afternoon, and I mixed the two meeting agendas up.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you.